Have you taken one of the latest reviews from me by the heart and are you playing through the old Margrave by Kobold Press, a magical forest with a mind of its own which can do all kinds of crazy stuff to your player characters? Are you a dungeon master that is running a party through this old forest, or are you a player that is maybe looking for new options to create a playable character that either comes from the Margrave and has its roots there, no pun intended, or are you looking forward to create a character that goes to the Margrave and you want a lot of background stuff that is in your character really can come in handy once you visit this old magical forest? Well, now you can, because there is a guide especially for players who are running through the Margrave forest, and conveniently it's called the Margrave Player's Guide. First things first, as you can see, I'm now sitting my ass down on a chair when I'm filming. The reason for that is I did this in the past for a couple of videos just to try it out, and the comments were full of people saying that my energy one way or another is better and more chill, and I'm less all over the place when I'm sitting down, so I'm just giving it another try. Also, this gives me the convenience of having a table next to me with a cup of coffee and with my books that I'm using and that I want to talk about in this video. So if you like me standing up more, please put it in the comments below, and if you like me sitting on my ass more, then please put it also in the comments below. Another thing I need to get out of the way, and I know I'm repeating myself when it comes to that, is my channel is still endorsed and supported by Kobold Press, the ever amazing Kobold Press, which means that I have a deal with Kobold Press where they keep sending me their latest and most awesome stuff they have, and they keep releasing a lot of stuff and a lot of awesome stuff. And the deal I have with them is, in return, I put all of their stuff on the top of my to review pile. That does not in any way mean that I review anything Kobold Press sends to me. As a matter of fact, there's one or two, or maybe even 3 modules from them that I have still laying around and I didn't review because I think they're not really up to par with other things that Kobold Press has done in the past. So the only thing that I do for Kobold Press, and they do for me, is they keep sending me their awesome stuff. I'm such a huge fan of Kobold Press, duh. And I put them on top of my to review pile. That means once something new from them comes in, I read it, I review it. If I think it's good, I feature it on this channel. So let's get into it. So first, a little synopsis about this thing, Tales of the Old Margrave. If you've seen my review, you know what it's all about. If you haven't seen it, well, basically it's an old magical forest that actually has a mind of its own, and it can make your life very miserable or very easy if it likes you. And there's a lot going on in this forest. It's magical, all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's one of the best modules, if not the best modules that Kobold Press has ever put out. I am running my party through this thing right now, and they are loving it, and I am loving it. I am not playing in Midgard with them, I'm playing in my own homebrew setting, but I've planted this forest in my homebrew setting, which is completely easy. It's just, you just put it there, there's magical forest suddenly, and they go in or they don't. They decided to go in and they almost died. They almost had a TPK, but they are having a heck of a good time. So that's Tales of the Old Margrave. It's a very big module and it is completely awesome. But the reason I'm creating this video is because there is a small little module that goes along with it, which is called the Margrave Player's Guide. And this thing, it's not for the Dungeon Master, it's actually for the players. There's races in here, there's classes in here, there's all kind of magic stuff in here that all has to do with the old Margrave. So let's just take a look what's inside of this little, cute little module. So first of all, you get a few new races, and immediately you see they put their work into it because they are completely original races I have never heard about. First of all, there is this centaur kind of person that, well, person, animal thing, that's called an Alcide, Alcide or something like that. And the great thing about that is there are some Minotaur races going around certain books. And the problem with that is, I had a player play a Minotaur once, and he was huge. Well, not huge, well, bigger than medium, like huger, bigger. So Anyway, he took up like 4 squares, and it was not easy playing that because we were in a tight dungeon and it was just not easy to do that. So this one actually is medium, which is great because that's way easier game mechanics wise to play in a tiny little dungeon. A medium character can go a long way. Then there is this hedgehog type of dude, which is also cool. It's not really my style. And then the third one, which I think is the coolest of the coolest, one of the coolest races I've ever seen, and I'm absolutely playing one of them as my next character, and that's called the Piney. And the Pineys are a Midgard race that actually they used to be humanoids. They used to be humans. Now they're humanoids, but they used to be humans, but somehow, through the ages, they lived in the old Margrave and the magical forest turned them into wood creatures. Their skin is actually made, bark skin, like made of wood, as you can see in this picture. They're actually made of wood, like their hair are made of branches sometimes. There is also a male character in here, which is completely different from the female character, but I'll just tap my camera right there, so like that you can see it better. Now I'm all blurry and the dude is all sharp. Now I go back sharp. Right there. Okay. So as you can see, but the strange thing they did here is they do this complete piece of text where they say there's no genders with Pineys, but at the same time they have like a picture of a dude that's very masculine and a female that's very feminine. So it's just like a strange quirk, but still I think they're amazing. They have some cool stats. I really can't wait to play it because normally I don't really play like elf type creatures and stuff, but these ones, well, there's something about them. I want to play one of those. Pineys do not recognize gender and are utterly unconcerned with prescriptive roles based on arbitrary physical characteristics. Anyway, Pineys do not recognize gender, and there is this last sentence that really can inspire your imagination. Just listen. When a Piney wishes to reproduce, the magic of the Margrave allows the Piney to alter its form as required to ensure successful reproduction. There are some crazy people working at Kobold Press. Then there are the class options, and it's right here that I want to state something. 90%, 95% of this book can be used without any other Kobold Press book. I mean, you can even use this in your standard home campaign if you like. You can use these classes, you can use these races as long as your dungeon master thinks they're cool. There is a few things you wouldn't be able to use if you go with rules as written. For example, there is a barbarian path, a path of the Shadow Chewer. Which is a path that can only be used by bear folk. It says right here, restriction, bear folk. You can choose this barbarian primal path only if you are a bear folk. The bear folk, however, is not in this module. It is in the Midgard Heroes Handbook. Also a completely crazy player handbook type of thing from Kobold Press, built around the world of Midgard. So most of this stuff you can use in your game, but there's few restrictions here and there where you need other Kobold Press books if you're playing rules as written. If your dungeon master is like, hey, you can use this path by being a dragonborn, I don't really care, just do what you like, then there's of course no problem. There is a lot of class options for all kinds of different classes from the player's handbook. Not all classes are represented. For example, the fighter is not represented, which I think is a shame because I really like the fighter. I always look at the fighter class options in a new module. But one of the cool things I saw in here is the Druid Circle of the Owls. Not the owl, but the owls. So the Druid Circle of the Owls, at a certain point, she has the ability to use her shapeshift to shapeshift into a flock of owls. It says, sorry, a swarm of owls right here. So you don't become one owl, you become a lot of owls, and you have this very cool stat block right here, what this flock of owls, sorry, swarm of owls can do, which I think is very cool mechanic, because most of the time when I play with druids, I myself don't really play a druid that often, but when I play with players that use the druid as a shapeshifter, they always turn into a bear, or they always turn into this, or they always turn into that. But this one can actually turn into a swarm of owls, which gives a lot of new cool options, and of course it fits right into the magical forest theme that the Margrave has. There's also a cool archetype for the Ranger, and I saw that Dan Dillon's name is on the cover of this module, and that most of the time when his name is on the cover, and I do not know if he's responsible for this, but when he's on the cover of a certain module that has class archetypes, there's also always something cool for the Ranger, because Dan Dillon, if you know the guy, you know he loves Rangers. For some weird reason, he's completely in love with Rangers. Anyway, there is this Griffin Rider type Ranger, which is called the Griffin Scout. Because a Griffin Rider, if that's the correct name, is actually the name of a archetype in the Midgard Heroes Handbook. I think it's for the fighter or the paladin, I'm not sure, but I think it's for the fighter. But now the Ranger also gets his joy from riding a Griffin. At level 11, when you cast Find Steed, you can use it to take on the form of a griffin, although it's not a monstrosity, because normally a griffin is a monstrosity, but with this thing it is a fae. Anyway, as a ranger now you can ride a griffin only at level 11, but there's a lot of cool other stuff, because this one is really built around being like the battle leader. When your allies strike a certain enemy, you can also strike it at the same time, stuff like that. If you ever played 4th edition, there was like this battle master kind of subclass. This kind of reminds me of that, but then in a ranger kind of jacket. Yes, I played 4th edition, and yes, I thought it was cool. Although it was just a MMORPG on paper, I still think it was cool, and I had a lot of fun with it. Take that, haters. Or how about the Hunter in Darkness, which is a Warlock patron, which you can use to create a character that actually uses fear to in battle. For example, you can see in the picture that it's a dude, yes, it's a dude wearing like hats of his foes on his spear to frighten its enemies. And well, the basic idea of this thing is causing a lot of fear. For example, if you strike down an enemy, you reduce it to 0 hit points. The enemy that's standing next to it needs to succeed on a wisdom save, or it becomes frightened, which I think could be a very cool mechanic in battle. Can't wait to see this, because I have one of my players that likes warlocks, really loves warlocks, so he's probably gonna try this one out once his character dies in the Margrave. Who knows if it ever dies? It probably will. A lot of these archetypes have spells with them, and a lot of these spells are completely new spells built around the old Margrave, and they are all in this little handy little booklet. Then there is a very interesting wizard, which is called the Course Mage, which is basically an archer that can cast magic, or a magician, a wizard that can shoot bow and arrow. The mechanic around this is that while holding a bow and arrow, you can still cast spells that normally would have you wave your hands around, and you cannot do that if your hands are tied to a bow and arrow, but with this class you can. Also, you can put magic into your arrows and into your bows, and this class is all about stealth and becoming invisible and shooting like magical arrows around the place. It's really interesting to see like a wizard type class that isn't really the stereotypical wizard, because I'm right now playing my favorite character of all time called Blithar, which is an 84-year-old wizard that has has negative physical stats and very good mental stats, but he can't remember anything. But he's like the most stereotypical old wizard that if you push him like with your if you push him with your index finger, he probably dies instantly. He has negative constitution, so he gains like 4 hit points each level. But that's like the stereotypical wizard, but this wizard is completely different. So they basically use the wizards as a basis to create a completely new class. So if you were ever planning on playing a wizard rogue type of hybrid, this one is for you. And by the way, I don't know where they keep getting these artists, but Kobold Press. People who draw for Kobold Press, you people keep amazing me. Every time. Next chapter, background and feats. And yes, you heard that correctly. Background, not backgrounds. Background and feats. So there's one background in here, but who needs more backgrounds? Well, when you're creating a book around a magical forest other than Forest Dweller, which is basically just a dude that has a lot of experience dwelling through a forest, and they can always find enough stuff to create a small fire, and they can always find a safe place for people to rest. Well, at least when the enemies are not magical, so you can always find a safe place to rest from native beasts in the magical forests. And you're also protected against all natural elements like rain and storm and lava or whatever. Then there is 4 feats to use for your character, because once we're creating characters and we really want to personalize our characters, we want to use feats to create our own unique character. For example, there is this feat Harrier, which is very cool. If you use your Misty Step ability, the next attack you do against a creature gives you advantage. So you are one of those people that can use Misty Step to its greatest potential. You can like pop out of nowhere, jump out and shoot an arrow with advantage at somebody, and they basically took that girl from the Hobbit movies and put horns on her head, and they drew her and put it in this module. And God, I hate the Hobbit movies. There are 45 new spells to learn that are in this module. 40 freaking 5. That's a lot of spells, and I've been flipping through them, and there's a lot of personalization for your character when it comes to spells, when picking your spells. When you're playing a wizard, the entire personalization of your character almost is picking your spells. So I do not really want to spoil some of these spells, but just to give you a basic idea of what they are and how Kobold Press handles new spells, they always put them in the theme that is the theme of the module they're writing them for. So in other words, for example, there is a spell, a first level transmutation spell called Cobra Fangs, and you can actually cast this on a creature, and the creature then grows cobra-like, snake-like fangs, and he gains a bite attack that does 3d6 points of damage, and it's a level 1 spell. So that's very cool. I mean, it's a duration 1 minute, so for 1 minute, which is 10 rounds, you can actually use a bite attack that on a failed wisdom save, if I'm not correct, constitution saving throw, it does 3d6 points of damage. It's those kind of creepy force-like spells you can expect from this thing. I mean, there's 45 in here, so for the spells alone, it's worth picking this one up. And again, artwork. There's 2 more chapters in this booklet, in this module, and that the first one is magic items, which I'm not gonna say too much about because, well, magic items is again one of those things I do not want to spoil. There's just very cool magic items in here. There's like 5 or 6 of them. Some of them are very cool, but I just want you to discover them for yourself, or maybe don't even read them, just give them to your dungeon master and make him or her decide if he or she wants to use them. The last chapter is called Miscellaneous Beasts, and again, this is one of those chapters that is written with love for the druid and the ranger, because all of the beasts in here are good for the druid's wild shape as they are for the ranger's beast companion feature. For example, one of the coolest ones is the giant honeybee. There's a giant honeybee in here you can use as an animal companion, or you can wild shape into it, and you can actually, as a downtime activity, once you use this one as a downtime activity, you can learn the bee dance language. And the bee dance language is a weird dance-like language that you can learn when you shapeshift into a giant honeybee, or you have a giant honeybee as your animal companion. If you have it as your animal companion, you can actually not really understand or speak, so to speak, the language, because, well, you are not a honeybee, so you can grasp simple concepts and you kind of know what the honeybee is trying to say, and you can kind of move your hands around probably. I don't know, it's to the dungeon master's discretion, but you can kind of make yourself clear towards the honeybee. But once you wild shape into a giant honeybee, you can actually fluently speak the language. And with speak, I mean you can make circles in the air or make twirls and things in the air to try to communicate with other honeybees, which is basically, it's a simple concept, but it can really do a lot for like simple offbeat role-playing moments in your party when you are trying to convey a message to another player by dancing in the air, or just standing on the ground and trying to convey a message to a honeybee by doing all kinds of crazy dances. I mean, there could be a lot of funny little role-playing moments right there, and it's those kinds of little things that Kobold Press puts in these modules, and they do it very well. That was my review or look through, name it whatever you want, of the Margrave Player's Guide. A little booklet, well, it's like actually 60 pages thick, and something that needs to be said for Kobold Press is that their products are always very reasonably priced. I mean, this thing will set you back, it's on the back about $20, $19.99 for a 60-page player's guide full of races, classes, feats, spells, beasts to shapeshift into or to use as animal companions, and a lot of great artwork. I'm not really a fan of the cover though. I mean, there's a lot going on this cover. I mean, they just took a lot of different pieces of artwork and put them together on the cover, so the cover seems kind of cheap, but the content that's in here is well worth the $20 of your well-earned money. So I really hope you enjoyed this Kobold Press feature again, and something I really want to say is that although I get a lot of modules for free, I kind of have a room full of modules that I gotten for free. Some of the stuff I really want to review, I need to buy. Also, I need to buy this camera, I need to buy these lights, I need to buy everything that I use to film, editing software, all that jazz. And if you want to support this channel, and if you want to see me create more videos, create more reviews, and make you spend your money in a good way, make sure to check out my Patreon supporters page. You can support me for $1 a month, and if you support me for $1 a month, I can buy like 1 cup of coffee a month because of you, which is very cool. You can also support me for $5, you can also support me for $10, although the $10 thingy is closed right now, because that means the $10 thingy is for playing in a party with me, but I'm opening up another party very soon. But make sure to check out my Patreon supporters page. If you decide to support me for $1 a month, you're awesome, and you will be accepted into my Discord channel, where I'm always roaming around, and you can ask all questions for me or the other Patreons. It's like a very cool little group of people which are very awesome. I hope your inspiration may guide you.